The cafeteria was chaos. Sneakers squeaked across polished floors, trays clattered, conversations rose in bursts. But in the far corner, one girl sat in complete silence. Madison Harrington stared at her untouched lunch, designer uniform pressed to perfection, pearl bracelet catching the fluorescent light, hair brushed into submission. Yet her eyes stayed fixed on the table, like she was afraid to look up. "Look at her," whispered a voice behind Caroline. "Daddy's money can't buy her friends." Another student snickered. "What's the point of talking to someone who can't even hear you?" Caroline's stomach twisted. She'd watched this for weeks, the deliberate exclusion, the cruel indifference, the way students treated Madison like furniture, expensive, untouchable, irrelevant. But Caroline knew something they didn't. She saw Madison's eyes tracking lip movements across the room, saw her flinch when someone laughed too loud behind her, saw the loneliness carved into her perfect posture. Caroline took a breath and walked over. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she sat across from Madison. The billionaire's daughter looked up, startled, suspicious. Caroline lifted her hands slowly. Her fingers formed the shape she'd practiced 1,000 times in her bedroom mirror. "Hello." Madison's eyes went wide. She blinked twice, then raised her own hands with trembling fingers. "Hello." The smile that broke across Madison's face could have powered the entire school. For the first time in months, the loneliness cracked. "Hey, beautiful souls, welcome back to Kin Stories. I'm so grateful you're here with me today. Whether you're new or you've been riding with us since day one, I appreciate every single one of you who takes time out of your busy lives to be here. Before we dive into today's story, let me say a quick prayer for all of you watching. Heavenly Father, I pray that you bless everyone listening right now. Fill their hearts with peace, their minds with clarity, and their lives with unexpected joy. Protect them and their families, and remind them how deeply loved they are. In your name, amen. Now, let's begin this story about Caroline and Madison, two young women who proved that the most powerful language isn't always spoken out loud.
If you believe everyone deserves to be heard, hit that like button right now. 3 months earlier, Caroline's world had been completely different. She'd rush home from school to find her grandmother, Nana Rose, waiting on the front porch with sweet tea and endless stories. "Tell me about the boy who keeps staring at you in chemistry class," Nana Rose would tease, her eyes twinkling with mischief. Caroline would blush and change the subject, but Nana Rose always knew how to make her granddaughter laugh until her sides hurt. Nana Rose had been Caroline's best friend, her biggest cheerleader, the woman who believed Caroline could conquer Broadway with her acting dreams. Every evening, they'd practice monologues together in the living room, Nana Rose applauding dramatically after each performance. "You're going to be magnificent, baby girl," she'd say, pulling Caroline into hugs that smelled like vanilla and lavender. Then came that winter afternoon that changed everything. Caroline walked into the kitchen to find her mother crying over the phone. "The stroke was severe," her mom whispered to someone. Her speech, "They don't think it's coming back." The hospital room was sterile white and too quiet. Nana Rose lay propped against pillows, one side of her body weak but functional. Her eyes were still bright, still full of love, but when she opened her mouth, nothing came out except frustrated sounds. The left brain damage affected her speech center. Her comprehension is perfect. She understands everything. She just can't express herself verbally anymore. Caroline watched her grandmother try to speak, watched her face crumble when only silence emerged. She'd never felt so helpless. The worst moment came 2 weeks later. Caroline's mother tried FaceTiming from Australia, where she worked as a nurse. The phone trembled in Caroline's hand as she held it up for Nana Rose. "Hi, Mom," Caroline's mother said, trying to keep her voice steady. "How are you feeling today?"
Back in the cafeteria, Caroline's hands moved slowly as she introduced herself to Madison. She could feel dozens of eyes watching them, whispers starting to build. My name is C-A-R-O. Everything changed on a Thursday afternoon in October. Carolyn and Madison were leaving school together, laughing over something Madison had signed about their biology teacher when Madison suddenly froze. A sleek black sedan sat in the pickup lane, engine running. Through the tinted windshield, Carolyn could make out the shape of a man in an expensive suit. "My father," Madison signed, her movements sharp with anxiety. "He never picks me up. Something's wrong." The rear window rolled down and a deep voice called out, "Madison, get in the car." Madison looked torn between obeying and running. Carolyn squeezed her hand supportively. "I'll be fine," Madison signed quickly. "See you tomorrow." But as she reached for the door handle, the voice spoke again. "You too, Carolyn. We need to talk." Carolyn's blood went cold. How did he know her name? The interior of the car was all leather and intimidation. Grant Harrington sat opposite them, his steel-gray eyes boring into Carolyn like she was a problem to be solved. His suit probably cost more than Carolyn's family made in a month. "You're the one teaching her sign language," he said. Not a question, an accusation. "She needed someone to talk to," Carolyn replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "She has the best tutors money can buy, speech therapists, lip-reading specialists, people with actual credentials." Carolyn felt her temper flare. Maybe what she needed wasn't money. The car went silent except for the soft hum of the engine. Grant's jaw tightened. Madison grabbed Carolyn's hand, her eyes wide with fear. "Please don't make him angry," Madison signed discreetly. "He gets scary when he's upset." But Carolyn couldn't stop herself. "When's the last time you actually had a conversation with your daughter? Not through an interpreter, not through a therapist, with her." Grant's face darkened. "You have no idea what you're talking about. Do you know what I've sacrificed for her condition? The specialists I've flown in from around the world, the programs I've funded." "But do you know her favorite color?" Carolyn shot back. "Do you know she wants to be an artist? Do you know she feels invisible in her own house?" Madison's hands flew in rapid signs. "Carolyn, stop, please." But Grant was studying Carolyn now with a different expression. Not anger, exactly, but something more complex. "You care about her," he said finally. "Yes, I do." A long pause. Then, "What would it take for you to continue tutoring her? Privately, away from school gossip?" Caroline blinked. "I'm sorry? I'll pay you. Properly. More than any after-school job could offer. You'll come to the house twice a week. Help her with her signing. Maybe teach her some advanced conversation skills." Madison's eyes went wide. She signed quickly to Caroline. "Say yes. Please. I need you." Caroline's mind raced. Her family desperately needed money. Her grandmother's medical bills were piling up. This could solve everything. But something felt off about the whole arrangement. "Why?" Caroline asked. "You just finished telling me she has the best tutors money can buy." Grant's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "Because in 5 minutes, you've gotten more reaction out of her than I've seen in years." The admission hung in the air between them. Madison reached for both their hands, bridging the gap. "Please," she signed to Caroline. "This could work." "All right," Caroline said finally. "But I have conditions." Grant raised an eyebrow. "I teach her what she wants to learn, not what you think she needs, and you let her make her own choices about her future." "We'll see," Grant replied, which wasn't exactly agreement, but wasn't refusal either. The sessions began the following week. The Harrington estate was everything Caroline expected. Massive, pristine, intimidating. A housekeeper led her through rooms that looked like museum displays to a comfortable study where Madison waited. "Welcome to my prison," Madison signed with dark humor. "It's not a prison if you can leave. Can I, though?" The question lingered as they settled into their lessons. Caroline quickly realized that Madison's signing was already quite advanced. What she really needed was someone to practice with, someone who saw her more than her disability. Their conversations ranged from art to dreams to fears about the future. Madison showed Caroline her private studio, a sun-filled room her father had converted but rarely visited. "He thinks if he gives me nice things, it makes up for not giving me attention," Madison signed one afternoon, as they looked at her latest painting. "Maybe he doesn't know how," Caroline suggested. "Or maybe he doesn't want to try." The sessions grew into something deeper. Caroline found herself looking forward to their time together, not just as a tutor, but as a friend. Madison was funny, whip-smart, and surprisingly rebellious when her father wasn't around. One evening, as they worked on conversational signing, Madison moved closer on the couch. Her shoulder brushed Caroline's. Neither moved away. At school, Madison was absent. She was absent the next day too, and the day after that. What would you do if love meant risking everything? Tell us below. When Madison finally returned a week later, she looked different, thinner, sadder. She avoided eye contact with Caroline completely. Caroline tried to approach her after lunch, but Madison shook her head firmly and walked away. That afternoon, Caroline found a note in her locker. "My father is watching everything I do. He's threatened to send me to boarding school if I talk to you again. I'm sorry. I love you, but I can't lose you and my family. Please understand. M." Caroline crumpled the note, tears burning her eyes. She'd found love and lost it in the space of a month. But she wasn't giving up. Not yet. That evening, she drove to the Harrington estate and demanded to see Grant. "You're trespassing," he said when he met her at the door. "I'm fighting for your daughter," Caroline shot back. "By corrupting her? By taking advantage of her isolation? By loving her?" Caroline's voice cracked. "By seeing her as a whole person instead of a problem to be managed." Grant's face twisted with something that might have been pain. "You think you love her? You're 18 years old. You don't know what love costs. I know what loneliness costs. I've watched my grandmother pay that price every day since her stroke. I've watched Madison pay it for years in that cafeteria. Real love doesn't hide people away. It sets them free." "Love?" Grant laughed bitterly. "Love destroyed my wife. Love took away Madison's hearing. Love is what made me too afraid to learn sign language, because admitting she was deaf meant admitting I'd failed to protect her." The confession hung in the air between them. "You didn't fail her by letting her become deaf. You failed her by letting her become invisible." Grant's composure finally cracked. "She looks just like her mother. Every day I see Catherine in her face and I remember the accident, the car rolling, the silence afterward, Madison's blood on the dashboard." Understanding flooded through Caroline. "You were driving." Grant nodded once sharply. "Black ice. I lost control. Catherine died instantly. Madison..." His voice broke. "Madison woke up in a world without sound because of me. That wasn't your fault. Tell that to my daughter, who lost everything because I couldn't keep her safe." For the first time, Caroline saw Grant Harrington as more than an intimidating billionaire. She saw a broken father who'd spent years running from guilt. "She needs you," Caroline said softly. "Not your money, not your protection, you." Grant was quiet for a long moment, then, "I can't watch her get hurt again." "Then learn to talk."
The change didn't happen overnight. For 2 weeks, Caroline watched from afar as Madison drifted through school like a ghost. She'd lost weight, stopped participating in class, even given up art class. Caroline felt like she was watching someone slowly disappear. Then, one Friday afternoon, Caroline's phone rang. Unknown number. "Miss Walker? This is Grant Harrington. I need to ask you something." Caroline's heart stopped. "Yes? How do you say, 'I'm sorry,' in sign language?" The silence stretched between them. "Mr. Harrington? I've been thinking about what you said, about learning to talk to her. I called a sign language instructor yesterday, but," his voice was rough, "I want to learn from you. You're the one who reached her first." Caroline sank into a chair. "You're sure?" "I'm terrified," he admitted, "but I'm more terrified of losing her completely." They met the next afternoon in Grant's study. His first attempts at fingerspelling were clumsy, frustrated, but he kept trying. "Madison," he spelled slowly. "Good," Caroline said. "Now try 'I love you.'" His hands froze. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I haven't said those words to her since Catherine died. What if she doesn't believe me? What if she's been waiting to hear them?" Grant took a shaky breath and formed the signs. "I love you." "Now say it to her." "She's not here." "Practice makes perfect." For the next hour, Grant practiced basic phrases. "I'm sorry," "I love you," "I'm proud of you." His movements were stilted, uncertain, but determined. "There's something else," Caroline said as they finished. "Madison thinks you don't support her art dreams." Grant looked surprised. "I've given her everything she needs, supplies, studio space. But have you ever told her she's talented? Have you ever asked what she wants to do with her art?" Grant was quiet. Then, "What does she want?" "Ask her yourself."
That evening, Grant found Madison in her studio. Caroline had coached him on what to sign, but his hands still trembled as he raised them. "Can we talk?" Madison's eyes went wide. Her father had never signed to her before, not once in 11 years. "You're learning ASL?" she signed back, moving slowly so he could follow. "Caroline taught me," Grant replied carefully. "I should have learned years ago." Madison set down her paintbrush, tears starting to fall. "I'm sorry," Grant continued, his movements clumsy but sincere. "I failed you after Mom died. I was scared and sad, and I ran away from you instead of toward you." "Dad," Madison signed, but he held up a hand.
"Let me finish. I love you. I'm proud of you. Your art is beautiful, and I've been blind not to see it." Madison launched herself into her father's arms, sobbing against his shoulder. For the first time in over a decade, father and daughter held each other without barriers, without interpreters, without fear. The next morning, Caroline got a text from Madison. "Can you come over? Dad wants to talk to both of us." Caroline found them in the living room, sitting closer than she'd ever seen them. Grant stood when she entered. "I owe you an apology," he said, "and a thank you. You gave me back my daughter. She was never lost, just waiting." Grant nodded toward Madison. "She has something to ask you." Madison's hands moved quickly. "My father says he was wrong to keep us apart. If you'll have me back, he won't interfere anymore." Caroline looked between them, hardly daring to believe it. "There are conditions," Grant added. "You're both young. You'll take things slowly. And Caroline, I'd like you to continue tutoring Madison, but also working with me. I want to become fluent." Caroline's phone rang, her mother's ringtone. "Take it," Madison signed. "We'll wait." "Caroline?" Her mother's voice was shaking. "It's Nana Rose. She's asking for you. She wants to try using her hands to talk." Caroline's world tilted. "She wants to sign?"
She's been watching sign language videos online. Baby, I think she's been waiting for you to come teach her." Caroline looked at Madison and Grant, both watching her with concern. "Go," Grant said gently. "Family first." But Madison shook her head. "We're coming with you. All of us. Your grandmother is important to you, which means she's important to us." That evening, Caroline sat on her grandmother's porch with Madison beside her and Grant standing respectfully nearby. Nana Rose's eyes were brighter than Caroline had seen them in months. "Hello, beautiful girl," Caroline signed. Nana Rose's hands moved carefully, slowly. "Hello, my heart." Caroline burst into tears. Her grandmother's signing was basic, uncertain, but it was communication, real conversation. "I love you, Nana," Caroline signed. "I love you too, and I'm proud of you for not giving up on me." Madison leaned forward and introduced herself in sign. Nana Rose smiled and welcomed her with open arms. Later, as they sat together watching the sunset, Caroline realized she was living in a miracle. Two families learning to communicate.
6 months later, Caroline stood in the wings of Westridge Academy's auditorium, watching Madison practice her valedictorian speech. But this wouldn't be an ordinary graduation address. Madison had convinced the administration to let her deliver the entire speech in American Sign Language, with Caroline providing voice interpretation for the hearing audience. "You ready?" Caroline asked in sign. "Ready," Madison replied, but her hands were shaking. "Remember," Caroline signed, "you're not speaking to them. You're speaking for everyone who's ever felt invisible." The auditorium was packed. Parents, teachers, students, and media representatives filled every seat. In the front row sat Grant Harrington, his hands already positioned to applaud in ASL when his daughter finished. Next to him, in a wheelchair she barely needed anymore, sat Nana Rose. Her stroke recovery had been remarkable, aided by the speech therapy and sign language practice that gave her multiple ways to communicate. Caroline's mother had flown in from Australia, sitting beside Nana Rose with tears already in her eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen," the principal announced, "presenting our valedictorian, Madison Harrington." Madison walked to the podium with confidence Caroline had never seen in her before. She looked out at the crowd, took a breath, and began. "4 years ago, I sat alone in the cafeteria every day," she signed, her movements clear and strong. Caroline's voice carried her words to the audience. "I was surrounded by hundreds of people, but I might as well have been on a desert island. I was deaf in a hearing world, rich in a place that valued connection over possessions, and desperate for someone to see me as more than my limitations." The audience was completely silent, riveted. Then one day a girl named Caroline sat down across from me and signed a single word: "Hello." That word changed everything, not because it was complex or profound, but because it was meant for me. Someone had learned an entire language just to reach me. In the front row, Grant wiped his eyes. Nana Rose beamed with pride. "I learned that day that true wealth isn't measured in bank accounts or stock portfolios. It's measured in moments of real connection. It's measured in people who choose to learn your language instead of forcing you to learn theirs." Madison's eyes found Caroline in the wings. "Love is patient. Love is kind." The entire audience erupted in applause, both traditional clapping and the visual applause of the deaf community, hands raised and waving. But Madison wasn't finished. "To everyone graduating today, I want you to remember something. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Everyone you encounter has a language they're hoping someone will learn. Sometimes it's sign language. Sometimes it's the language of grief, or fear, or dreams deferred. Choose to learn their language. Choose to see them. Choose to stay when it would be easier to leave. The greatest gift you can give another person isn't your money or your time. It's your attention, your willingness to truly listen." Madison smiled, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Thank you for listening to me today. And remember, silence is not emptiness. Silence is just another way of being heard. The standing ovation lasted 5 full minutes. As Madison walked off stage, Caroline grabbed her hand. "That was perfect," Caroline signed. "We did it," Madison replied. "All of us." That evening, the Harrington estate hosted a graduation party unlike any other. The garden was filled with families from the deaf community, Madison's classmates, Caroline's friends, and 3 generations learning to communicate across every possible barrier. Grant had hired ASL interpreters, but he insisted on signing his toast himself. "To Madison, who taught me that the best conversations happen with your heart, not just your voice. To Caroline, who refused to let love stay silent. And to all of us, learning that family isn't about blood or money, it's about choosing to understand each other." As the sun set over Lake Washington, Caroline and Madison danced on the garden terrace. Around them, conversations flowed in a dozen different ways: spoken words, signed phrases, written notes, and gestures that needed no translation. Caroline's grandmother sat nearby, her recovery continuing daily. She watched the young couple with joy that needed no words to express. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Kin Stories so you never miss another inspiring tale of love conquering all barriers. In the end, Caroline realized silence had never been the enemy. Silence was simply the space where love learned to speak a new language.